Hey everybody, welcome. It's finale day. I have Evie with me here. She's on the floor. We got 2 big boxes in the mail this week, one for George's new computer and one for Evie's new car seat. So the fun thing about having really big boxes is that we can let her play inside of them. So we've been putting some, yeah, you're stuck in here for now. We can put some crayons and things on the floor with her and she can draw on the box. So she's been kind of enjoying that, but nothing keeps her entertained without my full attention. So she's just going to be roaming around and we'll do the best we can until George gets here. So hopefully he will not be too far off. So today we are going to read the final chapters. We've got 10 pages to read today of Shadow Demons, which is book 4. And then we will talk on Friday for our coffee chat about what's our next reading, what is it going to be, how long will it take, what is our schedule kind of looking for in the future here. And then next week, I'm taking the whole week off. It's going to be Sarah's Write-A-Palooza week, and I will be writing pretty much the entire week, hopefully, and gone all of next weekend to write. And I will not actually be home. Extra noises in here. I will not actually be home until that Monday afternoon. But I am planning to go live that day. So we will talk a little bit more about that schedule. You guys are so sweet. All these comments. This top really is cute. And I think it looks good on me. My best friend Kelly was like, you should wear more V-necks because it looks good on you. So I've bought a few extra V-necks. I got this shirt from Amazon and I think it does look good on me. I really like this shirt. Thank you guys so much. Evie is over here on my desk playing with sticky notes. And she's getting so tall, you guys. She can like reach the tops of desks. So I have to be very careful not to keep any scissors or sharp pencils or anything like that. My new glasses, she ruined the previous ones. So I had to make sure that I keep those out of little hand reach, things like that. So it is super fun. We are going to, I had a quick question. I had a train of thought and I lost it real quick. So I have gotten some recent sort of like haul stuff, and I know not everybody here follows my Heart Breathings channel, but in exciting news, yesterday I did hit 42,000 subscribers on that channel. So very exciting milestone there. I'm really hopeful that I can hit 50,000 this year. So we'll see how that goes. But I've recently gotten a bunch of new stickers, some things from Procrastiplanner, Planner Kate. And I was just saying in the Discord channel that I was like, where did I put those Planner Kate stickers? And Evie comes running down the hall, cake. And I was like, no, not cake, Kate, Planner Kate. She was very disappointed because she thought there was going to be cake. See, she's like, where's the cake? Where's the cake? So no cake. She's over here looking for it. So I was thinking I might do a miniature haul on Friday, kind of show you guys some of that stuff if you're interested in seeing it, for those of you that are interested in that, or I might do it over on Instagram. So let me know in the comments because I don't know if it'll show very well, but I might just kind of show you guys some of the highlights of what I got, or I might do a Heart Breathings video or an Instagram, like an IGTV that is little bit of a haul for those items. So let me know if you're interested in that. I recorded a new video that will go up yesterday. Emma says I am equally as enthusiastic as about cake. Me too. I did also record a video yesterday. I literally spent all day yesterday with tech problems recording a new video about my Great Ideas series. And there is going to be a new workbook that goes up for those of you who are writers, the Brainstorming Great Ideas workbook. And that will be up tomorrow. But I had to re-record the whole video today and it still has audio problems. So let me know if you guys are hearing any kind of weird audio problems with this. I restarted my computer and kind of reset my settings on the microphone, but I don't know what happened. It messed up like 3 videos. So tech issues abound. We'll see how it all turns out. And then it messed up my lighting. There it goes. Okay, so we have 10 pages to read today, but I really don't want to start until George is home because this is like pretty serious episode, and I want to make sure that we get 100% attention on this instead of me trying to be a little bit distracted. Okay, Alex says no weird audio. The audio for this video came out a little bit overblown, and it sounds like I'm too close to the microphone, but I'm not. I don't know what happened, but I can't fix it. It's not getting fixed, anything I tried. So I was finally like, okay, it's not the worst, but you'll notice it a little bit. So just please forgive it because I could not fix it and I did not have time to record it a third time. So such is life when you're on YouTube. Delise says, just popping in to say hi. I'm not caught up to this point yet, so I can't stay. Oh, but you can join us on Friday, hopefully, because we'll have an extra little coffee chat, or just our regular coffee chat, but we'll have some giveaways. So on Friday, we are going to be giving away a few witchy things. I'm going to be giving away a tarot deck, some notebooks. I'm going to be giving away a few paperbacks, and I'm going to be giving away some more posters. So lots of fun things to send out on Friday. So make sure that you're here. Some of into the pins. I see her, Christabelle. I'm like, oh my gosh. Lately, she's been drawing on the windowsill over there. Like, oh my gosh. Come right on this box. Evie, come play on this box. You can draw on the box. See? She draws on the book on the floor instead. But it would be really fun. There are going to be some various witchy things, some more things. I'll just give them all up. Yeah, tarot deck and everything. So that will all be here on Friday. Some of them will be live. I think I'm going to do 3 live and 2 or 3 for people that are watching on the replay, and they will all be international giveaways so that everybody is available. I just realized when I looked up that Evie had pulled like some of my hair out. There it goes, out of my little braid earlier, and I forgot to fix it. So, so Laura says, you're so kind to us, but truthfully, it's fun for me too, to kind of share some of the fun witchy things and the paperbacks and everything else. It's so funny because I never really took paperbacks seriously. It's not that I didn't want to get them out, but it's just like I sold so many ebooks that I never really was that concerned about paperbacks. And there's a lot of work that goes into them and extra things you have to do. And a few years ago, I was like, I'm getting everything into paperback because it's ridiculous that I don't have them. And now paperbacks have become a really good, like 20 or 30% of my income, which is really crazy and not all that expected. And I think that part of it is because of this YouTube community, that more and more people are seeing the paperbacks, and then you guys are sharing pictures of them and more people think, oh, I want them too. So I think that's really cool. And I will just tease a little bit that there probably will be some special things coming up in October for our Spooktacular. I know that's months in the future, but we're already kind of planning for some of that. And there are going to be some special products that go on in the Spooktacular, and some of them will be paperbacks, or they will be potentially some hardcover type items. So I won't say anything more about that, but just know there's a lot of really fun stuff to come. Hopefully by then as well, we will have some audiobooks, because this is something that I'm going to be doing, starting in May. I was just checking to see if George had messaged me. I got this cute new, I hear him coming in the door. Look at this pretty new background for my phone. It's got the moons and everything. It's pretty neat. But Jennifer says hardcover. It's going to be really fun. And I agree. I think that Raven does such a good job on the paperbacks, and the covers, and they look so good in paperbacks. The colors look so good. And I think Amazon does a pretty good job with paperbacks too. She's like, Daddy, hold on just a second. Can you go find Daddy? I'm sending her out. Go find Daddy. Yay. Oh my gosh, the parent handoff. She was like, Daddy. And yes, like Christabelle said, the book plates are a bonus too. And I've got a package ready to go out to Christabelle to send her some more of my paperbacks, and she's getting another group of book plates. So those will be there as well. So if you have purchased the paperbacks and you didn't get one signed for me, you can get a free book plate for each book that you order, which is basically a sticker that you can put in the front of the book that has my signature. So you just have to message Christabelle. The info is in the description box, but it's also in the Coven and it's on the Discord server. So it's pretty easy to find. But right now I think she's out of them. So I'm sending her more. So those will go soon. I also got a message from Janet earlier that said that a few of you have sent some things to my PO box and I have not actually checked it yet. I try to only go once every few weeks. So it does not mean at all that I don't love you and appreciate all the gifts. I definitely do. But I think I've mentioned before that the post office, I'm at the UPS store and it is very crowded in there and there's always a line and it takes a long time and it's like everybody's kind of squished in together. And so I don't go that often because I try to hit it and if I go to check it and there's a long line, I just leave. So just during COVID, give me a little extra time to find it, but I do sincerely appreciate all the gifts and I will go and check them before Friday. All right. Akshara said, what's the weather like for all of you? It's raining in Houston. It's beautiful here in Charleston. It is sunny and I think just shy of 80 degrees. So it's been really, really nice. Just allergies are also kicking up. I can't wait to show you guys the latest update on our house on Friday because we have a porch going in and it's starting to look so good. So lots of fun stuff there. But Vanessa has been asking, does anybody have any tarot app recommendations? Some people I know have talked about this, I think in the Discord server as well. There's a app called the Golden Thread Tarot that I like. So if anybody else has any, just put in the comments which one you like to use if you use a tarot app and say if you have Android or iPhone, because I know they can be different. So we are going to get into the last of these. This is another section. I've kind of made fun of myself with the single page chapters. The last 3 chapters of this book are literally single page, just like that's all they are. Oh my gosh. I feel like looking back at young Sarah and being like, what were you thinking? But it just felt like a natural break. So here we go. So in the last episode of Shadow Demons, we had Harper was, traveling with the shadow demons. Leah was able to show her this thing. So we saw this last week that basically brought her back to a memory or an illusion of Aldine from the past. And Harper was able to see the truth of what really happened in Aldine, Kansas, when the Prima and the entire coven died, is because Priestess Winter, Zara's mother, was the person who did that. And of course, Harper is pretty sure that nobody else knows, because when the news came, when Harper had that heritage ritual the next day, everyone acted surprised, including Priestess Winter. So Harper feels like maybe she's actually gotten in even more over her head than she realized. She knew all along that the order was bad, but this is like, they're so bad that even an entire coven of witches couldn't defeat this one woman and her 2, people that she brought with her. They're that powerful. So she's thinking, what are we going to do? And so she's traveling with them because she's on the outs. She attacked Mrs. Ashworth. She knows she's in trouble. And their goal right now is just to stay on the move as much as possible. But Harper's been having a hard time. They keep going over and over the possibilities. They can't come up with anything that they really feels like it's going to help. And Harper feels a little bit helpless. She knows she doesn't have enough power of her own. And she's just feeling very frustrated. So she goes to take a walk. And when she walked away from everyone else, 2 tigers jumped at her from the grass and shifted into women, grabbed her and took her. She was just poofed, gone in an instant. And that's where I left off. Harper is not in a good situation. And I have my notes today decorated by a beautiful little 19-month-old baby. Okay, so we are starting our finale. You guys are ready? Make sure to hit those thumbs up. Oh my gosh. Whew. I hope you like it, but just warning, there's not exactly closure here. And I've warned you guys about that before, but I do have news on that. So we will continue on. Gosh, I wish this lighting, there it goes, a little better. All right, chapter 54. I can't tell you how disappointed I am. I woke up on the wet floor of a dark cell. My body ached from being passed out for so long on such a hard surface. It took a few minutes for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. I considered conjuring an orb of light, but I wasn't sure I was ready for whoever was holding me prisoner to know that I was awake. What would they do to me? Jackson had said if they caught me, there were two possibilities. They would wipe my memory and force me through the final initiation, or they would kill me and transfer the line to another family. Down in the Crow's library, the diamond earring I'd found belonged to Brooke. That meant the Peachville Order definitely had those books, and I knew they had every intention of using them. I'd seen horrible things Lydia Ashworth had tried to do to my mother. Now, she was trying to do those same things to me all these years later. And with the Crows out of the picture, she would have complete control over the coven. I shivered against the cold floor. They'd taken my sweatshirt and jeans and left me in some kind of thin robe. My arms were bound in thick steel cuffs that connected to the wall with a bulky chain. My wrists were raw and bleeding. I tried to sit up, but my body was too weak to do more than prop myself against the wall. How long have I been here? I had no idea if it had been hours or days. Judging from the extreme rumbling of my stomach, I was leaning toward days. Whatever happened after I was taken from the field was a blur. I couldn't remember anything. My head pounded and it hurt to think. All I knew for sure was that I was completely and totally screwed. I didn't have the strength to fight against the Order. Not that I stood a chance against Priestess Winter anyway. My only hope was that Jackson and his friends would somehow be able to find me, or that Zara could convince her mother to let me live. Footsteps outside the door made my stomach twist into knots. I brought my knees in close to my chest and sat pressed tight against the stone wall. The door scraped the floor as it opened. Light streamed in from the center room, and I realized that I was locked in one of the torture rooms on the third floor. The only problem was that every single demon gate had a torture room just like this. I could be anywhere. I raised a hand against the light. I'd been in dark for so long it hurt my eyes. Harper, I can't tell you how disappointed I am in you, Mrs. Ashworth said. She set a lantern down on a small table near the door. Did you really think you could run away from your responsibilities? I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. My throat was dry and scratchy, but I couldn't even moan or grumble. Don't try to speak, she said. I can't have you telling lies about me, so I took your voice with a spell. I struggled against my chains, then flinched as the wounds on my wrists opened fresh. 2 women stood on each side of the open door, twins with short auburn hair. I recognized them as the 2 tigers who captured me in the meadow. Mrs. Ashworth's lips curled into a smile. You have no idea how much of a favor you've done for me, she said, closing the door so the women couldn't hear. I've been trying for weeks to figure out how I was going to convince the Order you needed to die so that a more responsible family could take over the line. Mrs. Ashworth took a few steps toward me, then squatted down until her eyes were even with mine. Now you've basically done all the work for me, she said with a laugh. All you had to do was attack me, and the rest took care of itself. She stood and paced the room. You know, you also did me a huge favor by clearing up some questions I've had in my mind for years. I had all these holes in my memory, inconsistencies I couldn't quite figure out, she said. Well, not until the other night when you reversed that spell and all of it came rushing back. I closed my eyes. I couldn't stand the sight of her. It all makes sense to me now, she said. Your mother and I were best friends for years. Apparently, I was the only one who knew about her pregnancy. She never even told your father. He was a huge mistake anyway. A married man who was only using her because she was so beautiful and his wife was frigid. My eyes flew open. I struggled against my shackles but lost energy quickly. She knew who my father was. Somehow your mother found out I had this plot to end your family line, she said. I opened my mouth to try to speak, and Mrs. Ashworth laughed again. She dragged a chair over toward me and sat down. I had no idea she'd figured it out until that night we met in the old Randolph house, she said. I thought we were meeting to talk about her birth plan or something, but then I saw Jackson there and knew something was wrong. She wiped my memory of you before I'd even told the crows. I didn't remember a single thing about her pregnancy until the other night when you released that spell. I wanted her to shut up, but I was powerless. She tried to wipe my memory of the plan to kill her too, but she was missing a key part of the whole thing, the crows. She thought I was working alone, but the crows were the masterminds behind the whole thing. They were the ones with the spell books, not me. When she wiped my memory, she had no idea there was an even bigger threat waiting for her. When they came to me talking about this plan to kill her, I was so confused, she said. I didn't have any memory of making this plan with them, but they quickly reminded me, and of course, I realized it was brilliant. I clenched my fists so tight I could feel my nails digging into the skin on my palm. I opened my mouth to scream at her, but nothing would come. I forced my legs to work and stood up, pulling against the chains with all my might. I wanted to rip her throat out. When they killed her and the ritual didn't work, they thought I was trying to double-cross them. I didn't understand it at the time, but now it's all clear to me. They wanted to kill me too, but luckily I convinced them they needed me. They even helped me come up with the idea of a home for troubled girls to try to search for you, she smiled. Guess it worked. Everything was coming together in my mind. Lydia Ashworth had been trying to be the prima of Peachville for years. I thought of the lengths my mother had gone to in order to keep me safe from these people, and I fell to my knees. She'd sacrificed everything for me. And when it was all said and done, I'd ended up in Peachville anyway. Chapter 55, A New Focus. Mrs. Ashworth left me alone in my cell, and no one visited except the twins came to bring water. I had no concept of time, but without food, my energy was drained. I was going to die. The image of Priestess Winter wielding the ritual knife kept me awake, but I refused to meet death trembling in fear. I had to at least try to fight back. Instead of thinking about the end, I focused all of my energy on trying to get my voice back. I knew exactly why Mrs. Ashworth had chosen to take my voice from me. She was scared I would tell the others about her betrayal. The High Council valued loyalty. I doubted that Mrs. Ashworth's plot to kill my mother and take over the role of prima all those years ago would make them happy. They would probably still kill me, but Mrs. Ashworth would get what she deserved too. I felt sure of it. I had to get my voice back so that I could tell the truth about what happened to my mother. I owed her that much. I summoned enough strength to sit up, crossing my legs and placing my hands palms up the way Lark had taught me. I shut out the noise of my grief and cleared my mind of everything. I'd gotten so used to using Zara's butterfly as my focus, but all the butterfly made me think of now was Priestess Winter in Aldine, Kansas. I sighed. I needed a new focus. I tried thinking of my mother, but there were too many emotions tied to my thoughts. Same with Jackson. After hours of frustrated failure, I finally fell deep into a sleep. In my dreams, I was running through a field of white roses. My mother ran beside me, our blonde hair matching in the sunlight. She stopped in the middle of the field and plucked a white rose from its stem. She handed it to me with a sad smile, and when I woke, I felt so much sadness and regret for never knowing her. Later, it occurred to me that a field of white roses was kind of ridiculous. Roses grew on bushes, not like wildflowers in fields. But this dream felt so real, and my mother had loved white roses. I ignored the pain in my bruised body and sat up again. I cleared my mind of all things, then brought up the image of a single white rose in the darkness, its light growing brighter as I finally connected to the power within the core of my heart. Chapter 56, The High Council's decision in this matter. When the council finally came for me, I was surprised to see Zara standing with her mother. I tried to make eye contact with her, but she avoided my gaze. Her porcelain skin was marred by dark bruises. God, did they beat her? Why? To see if she knew where I was hiding? I looked away, my heart breaking for her. Deep down, I knew she was a good person. It wasn't her fault she'd been born into such a strict family. I didn't blame her for standing by them. What choice did she have? It was loyalty or death. Despite the pain in my weak legs and the severe hunger in my stomach, I stood to face them. I vowed not to let them see my fear. I'm sorry it has come to this, Harper, Priestess Winter said in her sweet musical voice that mirrored her daughter's. You had such great potential. She sighed, then motioned for the twins to release me from my chains. My wrists were red and cracked where the cuffs had held me. Instead of wincing or showing pain, I held my head high. They led me through the center room and down the stairs into Shadowford. So, I'd been home all along. I was surprised when they stopped outside my bedroom door. We're going to let you shower and change, Priestess Winter said. You look terrible. Gee, can't imagine why. Movement down the hallway caught my eye, and I saw Marianne's blue eyes peeking through the opening of her doorway. I shook my head, begging her to stay out of this. It was bad enough I had to face this. I didn't think I could deal with watching anyone else get hurt today, too. Slowly, she closed the door, and I breathed a sigh of relief. You've got 15 minutes to get cleaned up and changed, Priestess Winter said. She handed me a white dress. And don't even think about trying to escape. We'll be watching your every move. I almost laughed. After not eating for days, I barely had the energy to stand up straight, much less try to escape. In my bathroom, I undressed and stood under the flow of hot water, washing the sweat and grime and blood from my body. All too soon, though, the twins shut off the water and ordered me to get dressed. With aching arms, I pulled the dress over my head. The single diamond earring was still sitting there on the edge of my sink. I grabbed it and held it in my fist, then followed the twins downstairs. Outside, my eyes searched the woods. Would Jackson come for me? Part of me wanted him to stay as far away from this place as he could. The demons had admitted they didn't have the power to fight the High Council. If they came for me, we'd all die together. In my mind, I begged him to stay away, to keep fighting until he could build his army and change the world forever. The walk through the woods to the ritual room was almost an out-of-body experience. I felt removed from myself, not wanting to feel whatever it is they were going to do to me. My feet carried me down the stone stairs and to the center of the pentagram on the floor. The twins told me to stand in front of the blue portal stone, and I did as I was told. The room was full of witches, both from Peachville and the High Council. I looked each of them in the eye one by one. I wanted them to see me for who I was before they murdered me. I wanted my brown eyes to haunt their dreams at night. Mrs. King stood to my left. When our eyes met, I could see she'd been crying. There were so many messages in her eyes: regret, pain, helplessness. I knew she wasn't strong enough to fight the High Council on her own, but it still hurt to see her there. Mrs. Harris and Brooke both stood near the front. When I looked at Brooke, my supposed friend, she looked down. Her mother whispered something in her ear, and she lifted her head, but wouldn't meet my gaze. I clutched the diamond earring tighter. I didn't think Brooke was an evil person. Before her initiation, she'd actually been kind of sweet, but she had shown me what greed and power could do to a person. She was a perfect example of the kind of corruption the Order was responsible for. Priestess Winter and Mrs. Ashworth moved to stand in front of me. Mrs. Ashworth's daughter, Lori, the girl who owned the store downtown where I'd first met Drake, came to join her mother. "Take her necklace," the priestess said. Zara stepped forward and, still not meeting my eye, reached around my neck and unclasped my necklace. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Bring it to me," her mother snapped. Zara handed the necklace to her mother, then moved aside. Mrs. Ashworth lifted the silver chalice with the blue stone up into the air, and Priestess Winter placed the necklace into it. I tried to swallow, but my throat was dry and burning. My heart raced, but I did my best to keep my face free of emotion. I refused to allow any tears to stain my cheeks today. "This is a difficult day for the Peachville Order," Priestess Winter began. "It's never easy to face someone who has betrayed us, but I hope you'll all understand that the High Council has no choice but to punish this girl for her treason." The room was silent except for the soft sobs of Mrs. King. "The High Council's decision in this matter is final," she continued. "As loyal members of the Order of Shadows, you must accept this decision and pledge your loyalty to your new Prima. I realize this won't be easy, but this is the only way to preserve the coven and make sure this girl does not put the rest of you in further danger." She paused, adding weight to her words. "It is the decision of the High Council that Harper Madison Brighton be put to death." Chapter 57. I owe my mother that much. Beside me, Mrs. King fainted. My legs felt weak, but I would not fall to my knees. I kept my eyes straight ahead as several witches rushed to Mrs. King's aid, moving her to the stairs. I was glad she wouldn't have to see what was coming next. The tension in the room was so thick, I felt that I could open my mouth and breathe in the taste of it. I knew in my heart that there were a lot of people in the room who didn't approve of the High Council's decision, but they were too afraid to speak up. As individuals, they were powerless. It would take an army to defeat the council. Mrs. Ashworth clutched the cup tight in her greedy hands. Excitement glimmered in her eyes as Priestess Winter lifted the silver ritual dagger. "Do you have the spell books with the ritual in them?" the priestess asked. Lydia Ashworth nodded and looked to Mrs. Harris. Brooke's mother reached inside her robe and pulled out the crow's spell books. I took a deep breath, knowing it was now or never. The fire at my core was weak, but it was there. I drew from that fire, giving everything I had to release the spell that held my voice captive. "Wait," I said. "I deserve a moment to speak before this sentence is carried out." The sound of my voice sent a ripple of excitement and shock through the room. Mrs. Ashworth's grip on the chalice tightened. "Absolutely not," she said. "You are a traitor condemned to death for your betrayal. You don't deserve to speak." "Please," Zara said, touching her mother's arm. Tears filled her eyes as she finally lifted her head to look at me. I held my breath, praying that this one word from Zara would make a difference. Priestess Winter looked at her daughter and nodded. "I will allow it," she said. "Thank you." I swallowed, ignoring the burn in my throat. I looked at Mrs. Ashworth. The fear in her eyes was beautiful. "You speak to me of betrayal?" I opened my palm. The diamond earring glittered in the torchlight. "I have learned more about betrayal here in Peachville than I ever dreamed possible." I threw the earring down on the stone floor at Brooke's feet. Her eyes grew wide with tears. She turned away from me, her shoulders shaking with sobs. "My mother was murdered by the same witch who destroyed this ritual room a few weeks ago," I said. "But that's not the whole story. The Crows had an accomplice all those years ago, someone in the order." The energy in the room shifted. Lydia Ashworth was my mother's best friend, I continued. Most of you probably remember how close they were, but Mrs. Ashworth didn't believe my mother deserved her position as prima. She plotted with the Crows to steal the prima line. She helped them kill my mother here in this room nearly 17 years ago. Voices whispered in the semi-darkness. Priestess Winter shook her head and looked at Mrs. Ashworth. That's a lie, Mrs. Ashworth screamed. She's grasping at straws, trying to save herself. It's the truth, I said, looking at the priestess. I feel I owe my mother that much, at least. Priestess Winter lifted her hand in the air, commanding us to be silent. There is an easy way to settle this, she said. She stepped forward and placed both of her hands on my temples. My eyes were forced closed. At first, I didn't understand what was happening. Then images began to flash before my eyes. My life in Peachville played over in my mind and fast forward. She was searching my memories. The images slowed down as she reached the memory of Mrs. Ashworth's betrayal. She knew the truth now. I expected her to let me go, but she didn't. My memories continued to flash. Suddenly, I was in Aldine with Leah again. The image of Priestess Winter's knife slicing the throat of the Aldine prima froze in my mind, then went black. My heartbeat roared in my ears. She knew now that I had seen the truth of what happened in Aldine. Priestess Winter stumbled backward, her eyes wide. I started to speak, but she quickly raised her hand, sealing my lips shut. She took a deep breath and regained her composure, but I could see the distress in her eyes. She is telling the truth, the priestess finally said. She motioned to the red-haired twins. Take this woman to the dungeons. Mrs. Ashworth screamed out in protest. Zara took the chalice from her hands as the twins dragged Miss Ashworth from the room. The whole time, Priestess Winter did not take her eyes off mine. Chapter 58, Betrayal. The room erupted in chaos. Priestess Winter held up her hand and demanded silence from the coven. The High Council will deal with Mrs. Ashworth later. She looked to me. I'm truly sorry about what happened to your mother, but that still doesn't justify your actions or your words against the order. Sounds of protest went up, but the priestess would not hear them. Silence, she said. The High Council's decision is final. Is there anyone here who wishes to go against the decision of their leaders? No one spoke. She turned to Mrs. Harris. With Mrs. Ashworth gone, we will need another family to step forward and serve as the town's prima, she said. Mrs. Harris's face lit up with a radiant smile. She made Brooke turn around and face the priestess. We would be honored, she said, stepping forward. My hands trembled by my side, and I balled them into fists so that no one would see my fear. I couldn't speak, and I no longer had the energy to fight. Now that the priestess understood what I knew, she would never let me live. Harper Madison Brighton, you have been sentenced to death for betrayal of loyalty, Priestess Winter began. Will the members of the Harris family step forward and take a place on each of the 5 points of the star? Mrs. Harris and her 2 older daughters stepped forward and each took a spot on the star etched into the floor. Brooke reluctantly joined her family on the 4th point. Priestess Winter took the 5th and final spot. She handed the chalice to Mrs. Harris and lifted the ritual dagger into the air. As the rest of the coven began to chant, the blue stone in the floor glowed deep within its core. The portal opened with a flash of blue light. My heart was heavy in my chest. I tried to find some small power burning inside me, but it was too late. I was too tired and too broken. I closed my eyes as the dagger moved through the air. I held my head high and prayed for it to be over quickly. I wondered if I would be welcomed into heaven. I wondered if my mother would be there waiting for me. Chapter 59, Waited for the End. An icy chill passed through me as I waited for the end to come. Under my bare feet, ice spread across the cold floor like a wave. My eyes flew open in confusion. The silver dagger was frozen in place inches from my neck. Priestess Winter screamed as the ice stretched up her arm. I turned in time to see Jackson, Marianne, and Leah race down the stairs behind me. Time seemed to pass by in slow motion. All of the other witches in the room were frozen in a block of ice, but the priestess was too strong even for Jackson's magic. White crystals formed along her shoulder, then quickly began to thaw again. Water dripped down onto the floor. Panic seized me. I had to do something or she would kill us all. I reached deep inside the core of my power, finding a strength I never knew I had. It was a strength full of love and hope and truth. I connected to that strength like dipping my hand into a stream of pure energy. Lifting my bruised hands into the air, I created a shield between me and the priestess just as she pulled free of the ice, her dagger slicing through the air. The silver connected with my shield and broke into 1,000 pieces. The priestess stared at me in shock as the force of the explosion pushed her back against the stone wall. Jackson reached for me, and I braced myself for the twisting and turning of his shadow form. Only he didn't shift. Instead, he wrapped his arms around me and pulled me forward toward the open portal. We tumbled into a pool of blue light, leaving one dimension and entering another. Chapter 60, Is This Heaven? "Block the portal," Jackson shouted, "now." It all happened in a blur. My shoulder hit the ground with a crack. In a daze, I saw Leah casting some kind of black mist that hid the blue light of the portal from view. Marianne rolled to her side, cursing as she held her leg. Jackson touched my face. "Are you okay?" We lay together on a sheet of smooth obsidian glass. I looked up into his eyes, never so happy to see anyone in my life. The tears I'd been holding for so long finally flowed freely. "I can't believe you came for me," I said, tears streaming across my temples and into my hair. "You could have died." "Without you, I wouldn't want to live," he said. He brought his lips to mine and pulled me into his arms. I smiled up at him, still unable to believe I was alive. I sat up and looked out at the endless terrain of black rock and lavender skies. "Is this heaven?" I asked. "No," he said, helping me stand. "This is the shadow world." Yay! Got very quiet in the comments there for the last 10 minutes or so. So that is the end of Shadow Demons, book 4 of the Shadow Demons saga. Like I warned, more of a cliffhanger than any of the others that I have written. There are definitely, I think a lot of the next several books end in more of a cliffhanger ending. But this one is like very brief. But I remember back in the day when I was writing this, I wrote this book all the way back in 2011. I tried this ending several ways. Like, how do I have, how do I move on to what happens after they go into the portal to give more closure here without going straight into book 5? It's like without more story. And it was just like, this is the way this book has to end, is it's got to be a surprise. Like, we're waiting for more closure and they just pull her through. So it's like I said, that moment at the party, the Peachville, notorious Peachville parties, that moment at the party when Harper basically loses her temper and decides to go ahead and confront Mrs. Ashworth right then and there because she cannot wait to confront her. That moment where she attacks Lydia Ashworth is what changes the whole story inside and out, because you see now she can't ever go back. Like, now it's not a possibility that she's going to just in her heritage ritual, And this is part of why I wrote it this way. And it made so much sense in terms of story arc. She has that heritage ritual, which is also, it happens simultaneously with Aldine, is basically just at that moment has just been killed by Priestess Winter. And Harper doesn't know this. She just knows that she's going to this heritage ritual and visiting Winter Haven, which is Priestess Winter's home. And as she's sitting there with this new burst of power from her next ritual, and she's got this new dragonfly or butterfly pendant that Zara has given her, and she feels like she's part of the family, kind of. And she's sitting there with all these other women, and they're celebrating her. And she sees the women from Cyprus, Eloise and her daughters that were from book 3. And they're all celebrating her, and they're having fun, and they're talking, and they're, she's got this fresh magic feeling. She has these thoughts of, maybe this could be my life. Maybe there's some way that I could make this work. But deep down, she also reminds herself, there's no way that I can do this to Jackson. This isn't necessarily who I want to be. But there's a part of her that kind of tries on that life in that scene of like, this could be me, right? Like, I could do this, and maybe I could be happy. Maybe I would feel like I belonged here. And instead, really, if she had known the truth at that moment about who Priestess Winter is and what the council is capable of, she never would have had those feelings. But it's kind of like that last moment of, maybe this could be my life. And now she knows there's no turning back from what she's done, and there's no turning back from this moment. And you kind of get this feeling too, that if, it's part of it all coming together, if Priestess Winter had stopped searching Harper's memories with that journal about Lydia Ashworth, and she had just stepped away, they probably would have let Harper live, because they would have taken Lydia Ashworth away as the one who had betrayed it and told Harper, like, your actions were justified. You had every reason and every right to be angry at Lydia Ashworth because she betrayed us. And so it would be like, okay, you're not dying now. We're going to continue on with you as Prima. But she wouldn't have necessarily been saved from her fate, right? She still then would have been, perhaps at that point they would have said, we're going to initiate you right now. And that would have been even worse, because once she's initiated, she's kind of stuck for life, right? So it's just one of those really intense moments. So it's like, okay, how does she get out of this? And, on the back end of it, you've got to think about, for the past several days, like Harper's probably been there for a week or two. You've got Jackson trying to figure out with Leah and everybody else, how do we get Harper out of this situation? Because we're not strong enough to save her. We're not strong enough to kill all of these witches. And, we would need an army for that. We can't do that. So what do we do? And so you imagine this would be probably a really interesting scene to write for a behind the scenes kind of thing, is their conversations and what all Jackson has to do to decide. Our only choice is to wait until the ritual begins, so the portal is open, and then we can use that portal to go back through to the shadow world. And once we're there, we can hide better than we can here in the human world. So very intense. The 5th book of this series is called Rival Demons. You can see the black cliffs, the obsidian cliffs, and things like that. And I'm going to read the blurb for you real quick. So it says, after narrowly escaping death at the hand of the Order of Shadows, Harper finds herself thrust into the strange and beautiful world of the shadow demons. But crossing through the portal doesn't mean she is safe. The Order of Shadows is determined to bring her home and transfer the Prima line to the Harris family. They send their most vicious hunters after Harper, hunters who will not stop until they have found their prey. Determined to keep her safe, Jackson takes her deep into an underground world filled with dangers of its own. Here, Harper will begin a journey that will teach her more about herself and her own path than she ever imagined possible. But will her relationship with Jackson survive? So that is the next book in the Shadow Demons series. If you cannot wait, you can go get it. It's pretty much available everywhere in ebook, and it's available at Barnes & Noble and Amazon in paperback. And then there is one more book in this kind of story arc, but there are a total of 10 books in this series, as well as several side stories. Do you guys remember when I read Red, which is a short story that I had written that introduced a werewolf named Connery into my Shadow Demons saga universe. I have kind of decided as I've been writing the 11th book that I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a bonus story that features Connery. So when I released Emerald Darkness, which is book 7 of the series, it had been a while since I had written anything in that universe. And it was the first time I was going to 4 different points of view later. And so I wrote a little bit of a short story leading up to the release of that book and just put it out for free to my newsletter subscribers. And it was 1 story in each of the 4 points of view. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to do the similar kind of thing for this series, except that it will be something in Connery's point of view. So just stay tuned for that. So if you are interested in that and you are caught up, you will definitely get some fun out of that little short story as well. And that'll be coming to newsletter subscribers. So you can make sure you're on my Sarah Cannon newsletter list, which truthfully is a little bit of a mess right now. I have not sent out a lot of newsletters lately, and I was on MailChimp, which is one sort of mailing list server. And then I'm in the process of moving to MailerLite. So things are a little bit weird. So if you sign up on MailChimp right now, you might actually get 2, or if you sign up for my mailing list right now, from the back of my books, you might actually get 2 welcome emails. That will be fixed soon, but I will definitely let you guys know before that short story goes live. I'm also currently putting together a box set of the ebooks of those short stories. So it'll have Red and Loxley and Ella and the Haunted House, and it'll have my Mama zombie story and the Witching Well story. So it'll be like 5 or 6 different short stories that have never really been in ebook form as my own ebook. It's always been like in other people's anthologies or just on my blog and stuff like that. So I'll be putting that together and sending that out for free to anyone who signs up for my list as well. So I will keep you guys updated on when is a good time if you are not currently on my list. So that'll be going out to everybody. Christabelle says, I wish Rival Demons had been multiple POV. Yes, I do too. And it was really in this book, Shadow Demons, when I first started to have the first glimmers of, oh man, I wish that I could tell, part of what Jackson knows at this point and what he's going through. And it really, Rival Demons, it made it so much more, I understood it so much more in Rival Demons, how it would have been nice to have more points of view. And then of course in Demons Forever, it was really hard to write that with just Harper's point of view because there's so much going on in Demons Forever. But I'm going to tell you guys news about Rival Demons, but I'll go ahead and tell you now that we are going to continue on and we are going to read this book as well. But I will give you guys a schedule moving forward. But if you want to go ahead and catch up with it and read it on your own before I read it, then you will definitely get a chance to read it with us here for free as well. But you can also go and purchase it if you want to support these live readings. Alex says, I keep saying it, but bonus POV scenes. I think that's a really good idea actually, is to go back, and I've already been making a list of it, and I can't believe I didn't think of it before. You want to come sit with mommy? Say hi.
Stuck.
You're stuck on mommy? You want to say hi to everybody?
Stuck.
She does not. You want to get down?
Yep.
Yep. She does not want to say hi to you guys. I'm sorry. But we're going to continue reading on because I think that'll be the best thing. And then we can have a Vengeful Darkness release party and all of those good things. But I have already started making a list as I'm reading through of scenes that I think would be cool to show behind the scenes, not only showing Jackson's point of view as he and Leah are kind of discussing what they're going to do here. And when they go to, when Zara comes to that ritual room, it would be kind of interesting to see what her or Mrs. King might have had to say to try to save Harper's life before they got to this point. So those would be some kind of key scenes that would be really interesting to show, or to show Jackson's conversation with Leah at that party before and see what he thinks when Harper kind of loses herself. It's like, oh my gosh, it's pretty crazy. So Jennifer says, I don't know how anyone writes in multiple POV. That is a tremendous amount of brain exhausting work that completely impresses me. I really and truly wish that there were more books on how to write multiple POV. Now, there are lots of books on how to write multiple POV, as in romance hero, heroine, or hero, or whatever. But it's a totally different type of structure when you're talking about a dynamic series like this or a fantasy series that has multiple points of view. And even when you look at a lot of fantasy series, you've got maybe multiple points of view, like in Harry Potter. Sometimes you're kind of in different points of view, but it's omniscient, right? So it's kind of like it goes close in and it gets deeper and you kind of have this omniscient narrator. But with my style of writing, it's not omniscient. When you're in Jackson's point of view, you only see what Jackson sees. And when you're in Harper's point of view, you only see what she sees. It's not omniscient. It's very like close POV. And it is tough. And it's even tougher when you get to books 11 and 12. This is like, oh, it's so hard. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, but it is so rewarding. And George keeps telling me every time I try to say like, I'm going to write a series, obviously The Witch's Key only has one. He's like, no, your thing is you need to be writing multiple POV. But I do know that there are some people. I actually got emails when I switched to Emerald Darkness with the 4 points of view. I got emails from a handful of people that were like, it's obvious you're not writing your own books anymore and stuff like that. And I was like, it is me. I promise. It's all me. You just don't like the multiple POV. Some people, it confuses them because they're not sure whose point of view they're in. So some people like it, some people don't, but that is the way of creative work is you like what you like and you don't like what you don't like, and it's totally fine. Gabriella says, I would pay to go to a writer's retreat with Sarah and others to hear more of this and to work together. I feel like there's two things lacking in the writing sphere. There are tons and tons of books on writing craft, like how to write a book, but they all focus on the first book in a series or on a romance, which is usually a standalone single book, or they focus on writing a single POV. And they barely will touch on how to write or do multiple POV. And there's really nothing out of how many years of people have been teaching and doing writing course stuff. There's almost nothing on the market that talks about how to write multiple POV like this. And there's almost nothing that talks about how to write a long series, like a 12-book series, and how do you keep the character arc going over this amount of time, and how do you weave things together. And I feel like George and I have talked about that before, and it's like, maybe it's because those of us that are writing really long series with multiple points of view don't have any time to write books about how to do it. And maybe none of us really know what we're doing, and we're just kind of guessing. Mommy's backpack. She just ran and said, Mommy's backpack. Okay. My friend who read my book was telling me she needed to know what another person was doing. And I was like, if the detective doesn't know it, you don't know it. Yeah. And that is actually very true, is sometimes you need it to be that way. You've got to keep secrets from your characters. And even with omniscient point of view, sometimes you're kind of more in this one character's head and you don't know what everyone else is doing, because you want to do that with your readers, right? You have to puzzle it out and figure out how you're going to do it in a lot of those decisions. So, but what I love about writing multiple POV, obviously I love cliffhangers and I love ending chapters. I don't know if did I tell you guys this, but my business mentor, Amber McHugh, she has been reading through some of my books, and they were reading The Witch's Key on vacation. So she went on a camping vacation with her daughters, and her husband and her daughters, and it was raining one day, and they were literally camping. It wasn't like glamping. They were out camping in a tent, and it was raining and they had nothing to do. So she read them The Witch's Key, and her daughter, who is 8 years old, like Andrew, she said after every chapter, another cliffhanger, keep reading. And I just thought that was so cute, because she was like really excited about there being another cliffhanger at the end of every single chapter. And I like that about multiple POV, because you can really take a character up to the moment of things twisting, like wait till the cliffhanger and then switch to a different character. And then you hold people and you keep them turning pages. And to me, there's no better experience as a reader than caring about the characters that you're reading, and just can't turn the pages fast enough. And that's what, Laura, that's how you accidentally read until 4 a.m. And I am not on TikTok. I think Christabelle's probably right that I don't think I can handle more. Janet and I are slowly trying to get caught up, but I feel like until I finish out the series that I'm currently writing, I'm probably going to try to slow down as much as I can. What is going on back there? Who knows? I tried to just keep talking, but Anyway, I appreciate you guys being here. I hope that you loved the end of Shadow Demons. We will continue reading Rival Demons, but we will take next week off. So definitely come here on Friday if you get a chance so we can have some fun giveaways. Also, I posted something on my Instagram about finding the best sticker for my Peachville notes, because it says just peachy. And of course we were reading in this and she says to Brooke, everything's just peachy. And I was like, if you read the books, you know. And somebody was like, now I understand your rug as well in your office because it's the white roses, right? So yes. What book or series would you recommend for my 11-year-old? Just like any series in the world. There's probably a lot of things that people would recommend, things that Andrew has liked. He's kind of an advanced reader, but I don't know if 11-year-old would enjoy them. But he's loved like the Wings of Fire stuff, as well as all the Warriors books. I don't know if those would be too young for 11, but I don't think so. But if anybody else has suggestions for 11-year-old series, let them know. I'll let you do the post for Friday since it won't be a normal coffee chat. Okay, I will definitely do that. I followed you because of the planner videos, then listened to The Witch's Key and loved it. I do get a lot of comments on Heart Breathings from people that say, oh, I would read and support your books, but I don't read YA. And I'm like, but if you would read my YA, I think you might enjoy it more than you think you would. Because I get a lot of readers that are like, I don't usually read YA, but I actually like these a lot. So I think it kind of crosses genre a little bit. But anyway, that's all we have for today. I hope you loved this ending and I hope you're looking forward to more. Thank you all for being here. Make sure that you hit the thumbs up and definitely make sure that you come and join us on Friday for our wrap-up party. We are going to have a few little fun things that I'll have to share with you. We'll do our normal updates and some coffee chat questions, and I will give you our schedule for moving forward. So definitely join me then, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody. Keep waiting.